Chef Shawn's many people. Chef Shawn is he's a happy guy. He's a frustrated guy. He can be an angry guy. Most of the time, he's a pretty laid-back guy, as long as everything's the way it's supposed to be. And I like to do a lot of things and have fun. I mean, cooking is just one of the extensions of my personality. I like to love adventure. I got into, I think, cooking. I started cooking really, when I was 14, just because I was hungry all the time, because of sports and what have you. My mother was a very good cook. She's very talented, my mother, at a lot of things. She's an artist, extremely talented artist, and a writer, a designer. So if I inherited anything, I for certain know I got it from her. My sister's also an artist that she inherited from my mother's talents. And the earliest memory I remember cooking was when I was 14 at the beach cottage in Canada, where I was born. Was making fresh pasta and hanging it across the entire kitchen on a string to dry, and then my mother walked in and asked me what I was doing. So that was probably the first memory of getting into it at that point. And really didn't get serious into it until my mid-20s, when I went to school in Florida and then started traveling to Napa, California, and went to Italy, went to France, strictly for culinary, and constantly want to travel. If I had it my way, I would be able to take a year off to go to Asia to go learn different techniques on hand pulling noodles and making soba noodles from scratch, and real craftsmanship type of artisan skills. I think a lot of chefs nowadays, they get to the top too much and then they don't want to really go past that. I don't see myself like that, because I see it more as like something that if you're fascinated by it, you're constantly going to be like wanting to learn and do more. Like an artist, I mean, just because you painted 2 or 3 great paintings doesn't mean you don't want to keep painting if that's what you do. So, time is always the issue. To find the time to go do that is the hardest thing. And sometimes you just have to say, you know what? I need to work on myself right now for a few months. I need some time off to get inspired. I need to go back to wine country. I need to go somewhere that gives me some inspiration, so that the long, hard hours that chefs do work, they're hours that, of passion, if you will, or labor of love. Too many people say passion, which is kind of annoying sometimes. And the truth is, listen, a long week is a long week, no matter, if you love it or if you don't love it. Your feet will hurt after an 80-hour week, I guarantee it. Yes. First, it's the product that you put on the plate, which is, the craftsmanship. Considering an artist, I don't know if that's a term that I like. Even when I hear performing artists who are singers call themselves that, I find it kind of annoying. My mother is an artist, and I could tell you and my sister's an artist, and I grew up with artists, okay? I can tell you personally, that comes with being an artist, there comes a lot of little things that people don't realize that artists have, which I certainly know what those are because I grew up around them. And sometimes they're not so exciting to be around and pleasing, and that's the truth. And sometimes they're a little different mentally, and I say that in a very nice way for the most part. But that's why, like, when I hear about that, them being artists and this and that, yes, of course there's a craftsmanship and there's a value of art to it, because it's in the it's in that format. But to label it that, I don't know if I would do that myself. I just know that sometimes you have those moments when probably you're not at the restaurant and you're cooking somewhere else, and you're like, wow, something's going on here a little special, and you might have a moment like that by yourself, and you might even have a moment like that when you're traveling. But so an artist, you have to be a manager, you have to be a leader, and all of those things, absolutely. Without being a good leader, your team's not good, and your team is part of the people who get the job done. A restaurant sometimes is only as good as the pieces that it has. And if you can't build a good team, you're not going to have a great restaurant, because it's not just the one person. It's just like in a movie. It's not just the guy who's the lead actor or whoever it is, the director. You have an entire cast of people in the back scenes that make it work. And without that good cast, you guys would know, more than anybody, it doesn't happen. So that's the answer to that question. Yeah. Well, that's a very good question. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. This year I've reserved myself to more going to pick up food because it's easier, and I kind of enjoy the fact that, especially here in Orlando, there's so many good Asian restaurants, and it's comfort food for me. So at the end of a long work week, I will go to many different Asian restaurants and just have my personal space because there's nobody around there, and eat great food and relax. When you would come to Kasa, what you would expect to have here is a variety of different experiences. Kasa is a global experience, and that reflects basically the culture of what they tried to bring together was Latin and Asian cultures. The company that owns this is the Bento Group, which is a very interesting group that has risen from a very humble beginning, if you will, and they have brought Orlando sushi restaurants, and they're expanding that. So their Asian influence plus for some reason they were very intrigued by the Latin influence, and they kind of tapas, and they kind of brought it together. And Kasa, the word itself is Kasa, like with a C, house, which would be the Spanish, and then omakase would be Japanese, so the influences that come in. But the whole experience itself is more like a global experience where you would, we don't like to pigeonhole ourselves. If we want to do something from a flavor from Korea, a flavor from, Puerto Rico, that's, where all the influences come from, as well as the cooks that work here and the people that work here are just like similar to Disney. It's an international community, so you really get a real authentic experience in the fact that the people who make up the restaurant give you the total experience. So the most popular dish, there's a lot of that could be argued, but one of the most popular dishes is the Kasa corn, which is really just a simple corn on a stick, which we won through Orlando Weekly Best Food on a Stick. And it's just basically another interpretation of a Mexican street food dish, is where you see it in Mexico. And I remember having it for the first time in Mexico when I was traveling through the Baja, and I got to Cabo San Lucas, and there was a little guy pushing a cart, and he pulled out a corn, and he spread mayonnaise on it, he put Parmesan cheese on it, chili, and gave me a lime. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I had that. And then when I came back here, I did a different version of it, which was a little more influenced, where we have miso lime aioli, which has a saltier flavor to it. And then we cover it with manchego cheese, queso fresco, and we make it beautiful with a stick that's cloaked with a green onion. And we also season it with togarashi, which is Japanese 7-spice. So it's a little more layered, but essentially it's the same simple food that I had in Baja.